I'm asked all the time what I do to protect my investments. What are the strategies I implement to combat against all the things I talk about on a daily basis and over 2,000 plus videos in circulation at AMTV? The economy, 0% interest rates, this artificial manipulation at the Federal Reserve, the bailouts, the consequences of all the stimulus and artificial manipulation. What kind of strategy do I have in place for my family? What am I doing to protect our future? Well, one of the things I do is I invest in precious metals. I take 10% of everything I earn and I buy gold and I buy silver. And the company I trust that I do business with is Goldline. These are things you should already be doing, but if you're not, you need to pick up the phone right now. You need to click that link below. Visit Goldline. Download a free investor kit. Tell them Christopher Green of AMTV sent you. Act now. Get your family's financial future in order today. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. It is June 30th, 2015, and yesterday marked the most significant financial event that we've seen since the collapse of financial markets in 2008 and 2009. And most people really just don't get that. It largely went unnoticed. Even though we are experiencing bank runs, bank holidays, and the closure of the Athens Stock Exchange in Greece, the first country to collapse, essentially, out of the Eurozone, marking a total and utter failure at the hands of Angela Whore Merkel and Mario Drag Queen Draghi. An absolute and total failure. Again, the Eurozone, this 19-member experiment, has only been around since roughly 2001. It hasn't been that long, and it's already collapsed. And I was getting a lot of comments from our video yesterday asking me things like, Christopher, well, what do you think about Puerto Rico? You know, what do you think about Greece in relation to Puerto Rico? And there's some $72 billion that they're defaulting on. How do you think this stacks up against the United States of America, the mainland? Well, I actually think that Puerto Rico and Greece, which is on the brink of social, societal, financial, and economic collapse, is actually much better off than the USA, than the United States, than the mainland. Because you see, they can't print their own currency out of thin air. Greece is actually having to face its hard economic reality today. They are holding a referendum on July 5th, the day after July 4th, our Independence Day here in the United States of America, and don't be so sure that they have a referendum. Again, if this contagion continues to spread, or they come up with a last-minute deal today or tomorrow prior to the July 5th deadline, all of this could change on its head and on its face once again. So I'm personally not sure they even have a vote. It looks like they'll likely have a vote, but even that is totally and utterly uncertain in a world with all of these financial shenanigans where they can just create a new bailout out of thin air whenever the EU decides to come to the negotiating table with Greece and the Tsipras leadership, if they survive. One of the opposing political groups in Greece is currently trying to supersede Tsipras and his party so that they can get a bailout agreement done with Greece and the Eurozone itself. So I actually think Greece and Puerto Rico are in a much better situation than the United States because, again, here in the USA, at least on the mainland, courtesy of the Federal Reserve, this criminal private institution, we can just paper over our debt into infinity. We never have to address the elephant in the room. And you see, Greece, although there's short-term pain, there's still a lot to be gained. Again, I would argue it would be a good thing for them to collapse, and it is a good thing for them to collapse out of the Eurozone. They can reinstitute their currency, the drachma, although there will be hyperinflation in the short run. The Greek people will lose some 50% of their purchasing power overnight, 40 to 50%. That would help exports, that would help travel to the country. They would be able to slowly rebuild to where they were moving towards real economic growth, real GDP growth, and a true recovery. Not this bullshit recovery we're being sold by quantitative easing and 0% interest rates, courtesy of the Federal Reserve here in the United States of America. So Puerto Rico and Greece are much, much better off. You see, what's going to happen to the United States, Wall Street specifically, our financial markets at the New York Stock Exchange, is the exact same thing that Bill Gross former PIMCO head and leader, who was since ousted and now moved over to Janus Investments. He went from managing $1 trillion worth of bond funds to like $1 billion+ worth of bond funds, says we are going to have a liquidity crisis in the not too distant future, more than likely in the bond market itself. He says that all of the risk, these too big to fails, has really just been transferred to these third parties, whether or not it's PIMCO, Pacific Investment Management Corporation, located in Newport Beach, of which I have a few contacts, or it's any of these other institutions like BlackRock, for example, or MetLife. These entities, these institutional giants, are essentially providing all the liquidity to our financial system, to the bond market. Namely, we've known about this for some time, in addition to the Federal Reserve being the buyer of last resort. So at some point, as Bill Gross suggested today on CNBC, there's going to be a stampede to the exits. And there's only going to be one door for the herd to get through. And guess what? Not everybody's going to get through. And the Federal Reserve, backed up against a corner, having shot its last bullet with rates already at zero, already purchasing mortgage-backed securities, all these derivatives, etc., arguably S&P futures to artificially prop up the S&P 500, the Dow, etc., won't have any ammunition left. And it will be likely a systemic event, unlike anything we've ever seen in world history. It will, I think, make the tragic crash in 1929 pale in comparison to what's coming potentially this year in 2015 or in 2016 or 2017, however long they can continue this Ponzi scheme into infinity. Again, because the United States is not addressing any of its fundamental structural problems, and that is the root of our problems. The Federal Reserve specifically, and again, all these structural issues that are creating an environment where there is no liquidity. There is illiquidity. And the Fed is the only entity, private entity, providing that backstop to our market system today, along with firms like PIMCO, which have inherited the risk. These large financial institutions inherited the risk that's been transferred from these too big to fails as a result of Dodd-Frank. These are very, very serious issues, and I think still the pundits are underestimating the potential contagion risk of Greece and what could happen in the periphery of the Eurozone specifically. Again, all of this is based around sentiment. The hedge funds, which are super leveraged, maybe trading 10-to-1 for each dollar invested, have been heavily invested in countries like Puerto Rico and Greece, making huge multi-billion-dollar bets, buying the banks, etc., buying warrants on Greece, etc. So when those contracts fail or they take stiff losses, as was the case yesterday, and that continues, that can create in and of itself the liquidity crisis that everybody fears, that Bill Gross is trying to explain to the little guy, the American people, on CNBC today. It can all happen at once. The stampede can all happen at once. And again, all that Wall Street is, just like all that most of our society is today, is an algorithm, is high-frequency trading. Are these algorithmic trades trading at nanoseconds, which at the drop of a hat or a specific headline, the code will interpret that data and sell the market, just like we saw with the flash crash a few years ago, where the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 1,000 points in measly seconds and then recovered artificially, and nobody even knew why. So all of this can happen literally at the blink of an eye. The black swan event, the liquidity crisis of people like Bill Gross, Jamie Dimon, the head Mr. Cohn of Goldman Sachs, who really is the Federal Reserve, have been warning about, could come to a theater near you in reality in the not too distant future. And it could be totally and utterly catastrophic to our financial markets, to our financial system, to the confidence of Americans, by the way, which now have a 50% majority favored opinion of Obama post the gay ruling. You see, that's all it took was, a ruling on social issues courtesy of the Supreme Court. I think it was a 5-4 decision or something with 4 dissenting. That's all it took to get the American dipshits behind Obama. They've already forgotten about his continued illegal wiretapping and spying courtesy of the NSA, his anti-constitutional wars in Syria, the escalation of tensions in the Middle East, this false flag that makes up ISIS, the new boogeyman, which is just the new head created, the new monster that spawned from Al-Qaeda, this endless war on terror, all of these shenanigans at the Federal Reserve. All the Supreme Court needed to do was rule in favor of gay marriage, the social issues, the LGBTQ community, and now everybody's on board with Obama. They've quickly forgotten the past. See how malleable the people are, how malleable the masses are. See how uneducated and ignorant they are. I mean, most people have no idea what Bill Gross is even talking about on CNBC today. They're like, liquidity? What does that mean? What is the difference between liquidity and the liquid that I have in a cup? I mean, people honestly have no idea what these bankers are warning about and what they're telegraphing to the American public, that there is going to be a profound, catastrophic black swan event in the not too distant future. There's going to be one exit, and guess who's going to get out? Not you. The hedge funds will get out. Wall Street will get out. These algorithmic traders will get out. The Federal Reserve will get out. But you won't. You'll suffer just like the people of Greece, in my opinion, are much better off, just like the people of Puerto Rico are much better off, at least in the short term here, than the people of the United States of America. Again, folks, it's going to take radicals to change how far this country's been screwed up in the past couple of years. It's going to take zealots to change what's happening in Washington, D.C. today, to wake the dumbfounded masses up from this non-reality that continues to be pitched by the mainstream media and by our politicians. It's going to take radical thinking. It's going to take liberty, a liberty frame of mind. It's going to take courage, and it's going to take people like you to wake up your friends and family. I encourage you do that today. I'm Christopher Green. Get this video out everywhere, make it viral, hard hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.